This one from Mother's Basement.
investment round.
Didn't get into it. We might not watch the whole thing because it's like it's 40 minutes. But yeah, similar vein. Parasites are eating your hobbies alive. Let's take a look at this. The following program contains views and expressions that are a matter of opinion alongside presented facts. We're confident you can tell which are which. Yeah, and if you can't, you're an idiot. Alec, welcome in.
On April 21st, 2026, professional dead body filmer Logan Paul and Monsuno co-creator Jeremy Padawer made waves on anime Twitter when they announced that they had just co-purchased the, quote, greatest mangas in the world, the second highest grade One Piece #1, and the highest grade in existence of Dragon Ball #1 for a record $550,000. First appearance of Goku and Bulma, which isn't even true. Toriyama teased Goku at the end of Dr. Slump. Also, even if it was, it wouldn't be special because most chapter 1s are the first appearance of the main character of the manga. That's just how manga works. And it's not fucking Dragon Ball #1. It's Shonen Jump 1984 #50. I'm falling into his trap.
The cover is
The end of Dr. Slump. Also, even if it was, it wouldn't be special because most chapter 1s are the first appearance of the main character of the manga. That's just how manga works. And it's not fucking Dragon Ball #1. It's Shonen Jump.
the cover itself is just absolute work of art and an absolute vibe too. I love it. Akira Toriyama, he left us too soon.
1984 #50. I'm falling into his trap again already. So immediately, anime Twitter jumped Paul's ass, pointing out all those errors in his tweet.
Good.
And then some. I myself chose to focus on
Loser behavior. Nobody wants you using our hobby for your next pump and dump. Also, the plural of manga is manga. Yes, that's exactly right. It's like, tell me you're a fucking tourist without telling me you're a fucking tourist. Mangas? Seriously? Yeah, but he doesn't care. He's got more money than he's got good sense. And yeah, probably just going to do another pump and dump. As he... The Paul brothers, I think that's basically what they have built their entire careers off of, is just one pump and dump after another. One scam after another. This is not the face of an honest human being. This is the face of a very dishonest human being. These eyes are lacking soul to them. It is an amazing cover indeed.
mangas.
It's like one of my Japanese animes.
If you zoom in on the grading slab,
that
there's
one's
some
still
really
fun
funny
to use.
nonsense on there too. Like they just listed 2 random mangaka's names out of the 14 or so who also had a chapter in each of those issues. It's just so obvious that Beckett copy-pasted their template for grading American comics with zero regard for how it might make sense in the context of manga. Kind of like how
No
it's
regard at
stupid
all.
obvious that Paul could not give a single solitary PSA 7 too much corn shit about the series that he's flexing with.
I'm literally I'm getting goosebumps thinking about what anime
No, you're not.
means to me.
No, you're not. Somebody just turned on the aircon in your hotel suite. That's what happened.
Shout out Luffy.
Monkey D. Luffy.
What?
Monkey D. Luffy.
Even the fucking cameraman can tell. But the thing about tricks is, when the magician's fuck up is that obvious, it's usually because he wants you looking
the coin.
at that instead of what's in his other hand. As fun as it feels to mock him for his obvious LARPing or watch
He's
one of
just
his...
like, this is a guy who's... He's almost at that point of his like, yeah, I'm a scam artist. I am going to fuck all of you in the asshole. And I'm going to smile while I'm doing it. I'm going to keep doing it over and over again because I can, and because you stupid fucks keep letting me get away with it. Lego is a plural of Lego. If you're referring to the bricks, it's Lego bricks or Lego klodser or Lego bricker in Danish. It's not about the manga, it's about him, yeah. It's all... The most important thing to Logan Paul or Jake Paul is Logan Paul or Jake Paul, as the case may be.
His fellow WWE superstars subject him to one of the most brutal ratios in Twitter history. You need to understand, Logan Paul doesn't care if you think he's a real One Piece fan. Just like he doesn't care about the sanctity of human life or literally any of the
No, he does
thousands
not.
of his own fans who he's robbed blind with his multiple well-documented crypto scams and rug pulls. The only thing he cares about is making making money. And that is what
And
makes
he doesn't care who he has to fuck over to get it. And it'll keep working until it doesn't. It will keep working until it doesn't. There will come a time where he will push too far, and then he's going to land in some sort of legal hot water, or he's going to scam or piss off the wrong person, and it's going to cost him dearly. Such is the inevitable fate of the ungodly.
him more of a threat to our hobby and community than any tourist who's ever subjected you to their bad opinions about anime boobs or whatever. The dude can't even come back to Japan as a tourist, and frankly, he'd be
Good.
happy to see you call him one, because any publicity is good publicity when you're running an ad campaign, and because it stops you from recognizing that he's something much worse. An overseas landlord. Someone without even a passing vacationer's interest in the culture he's invading, whose sole goal is to make a quick buck by making life less pleasant and more expensive for all the locals. And we know that, because this ain't his first investment round. On July 22nd, 2021, Logan Paul made waves across the internet when he announced his acquisition of the, quote, greatest collectible in the world, a PSA 10 Pikachu Illustrator Pokemon card for a record $5.275 million, a staggering jump from the previous documented price of $300,000 to $400,000 for every PSA 9 one that had been previously sold.
What do you want to bet that he just did that? He did that as some sort of tax dodge move or some form of money laundering. It's so painfully obvious. It's sort of like when people purchase modern art and bid up these absolute ridiculous prices for it at auction. This seems like tax evasion and money laundering to me. It smells like it. This is Logan Paul has a bit too much money and he doesn't know how to tell the taxman, wait, where do you get all this money? How'd you come across all this? And he's just like, think fast, buys rare Pokemon card. He's like, oh, I don't have it. No, I blew it on this super rare Pokemon card. Again, it'll work until it doesn't.
Except the one PSA 9 that he bought a month before for over $1 million. This was the culmination of months spent streaming expensive, high-profile Pokemon pack and box openings on the Impulsive podcast channel, the event that cemented
Probably also tax dodging and money laundering.
PSA as the go-to grading house for Pokemon cards and a watershed.
Modern art is not performative enough, doesn't get you a whole lot of internet clout, especially with young people. But sinking hundreds of thousands of dollars into a fucking trading card game, somehow that will get you internet clout. It is consume product, get excited for next product, and just injecting it with all sorts of chemical stimulants and steroids.
Shed moment for the entire Pokemon TCG community in kind of the same way that a tsunami or a dam breaking is a watershed. Prices for rare cards and sealed product, old and new, which had already been creeping up due to pandemic pressures, exploded exponentially in a matter of months, with chase cards of all types rapidly escaping the reach of all but the most affluent fans and the most
Yeah, and another thing, trading card games are not obtainable. Because I think we have seen footage of Jake or Logan, one of the Paul brothers. They both look exactly alike to me. I think they have done the thing where they have spent copious amounts of money on expensive cars, expensive watches, that sort of thing. All of that, though, is good for the time, especially in terms of making content. But to most of the audience, it just looks like Unobtainium. Whereas a trading card game, rare mangas, the first ever video game console, a copy of a game off the shelf, that still has an element of Obtainium to them. Pokemon cards are just becoming this decade's Funko Pop. Yeah, again. That's the key. They already were once before. Now it seems like they're becoming that way again. Collector slop, yeah. Reminds me of inflation prices on baseball cards in the early 2000s. That and car cards hit in Denmark back then. That might be next. They might be circling back to baseball cards. You never know. Original arcade machine with Pac-Man from 1980, whatever. Might be something else. Although that also has an element of unobtainium. See, if it has an element of unobtainium, it doesn't quite work for very long. But if it has an element of obtainium to it, whatever that collector's item might be, the thing that is obtainable for a lot of people, then they can milk that for more content. I don't know, we seem to be going through fads quite quickly, and the quickness only seems to be accelerating. These past few years, we've seen what? Labubu's, Stanley Cups, we've circled back to Pokemon TCG. I think we've done the same with Yu-Gi-Oh! Maybe Magic the Gathering. We've got the thing with the Nintendo Switch 2. There's also been Funko Pop, as mentioned. They haven't tried to recycle or warm over Beanie Babies, though I imagine they probably would. That might be changing. I don't know. Who knows what the next big thing is? It doesn't really matter. I don't take part in those sorts of things, and neither should you, Chad. Don't waste your money on all that shit. It's like, why the fuck would you buy a Labubu? What purpose does it serve? The thing just looks like a little demon. And don't waste your money on trading card games either, especially not on the magnitude of what some people do. You know, if you're really into trading card games, do it to build really good decks. Do it for the love of the game. Don't just do it to try and collect it and, you know, ride asset prices up and down. You're never going to be able to time that sort of thing. And you're never going to get your money back either. Don't get into these things expecting to make money off of them. You're just a speculator. You're not a collector at that point. And speculators just ruin it for everybody. Furbies, yeah, that was another thing. I think they had a brief little moment in the sun again, and gone. It's whatever. It's almost a flavor of the month now.
Shameless clowns.
No! You just take it from my cart?
Oh, why? Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, he did, and he's just sneaking away with this fucking low-T energy.
No doubt. And
what an absolute soy cock. You could knock that bloke down with a finger. He looks so fucking low-T. Look at him. Look at him. What an absolute joke. And look at that sniveling little smirk of his. An absolute little piece of shit.
Run!
you've seen these creatures, no doubt, in TikToks, shorts, and cringe compilations, snatching new boxes and blisters off the shelf as fast as the Walmart associate can set them down before gleefully shoving.
Could be a member of the Try Guys. I have no idea who those are. Shameless thieving bastard, yeah.
Their overflowing carts past the despondent faces of poor Pokemon-less children who arrived 5 seconds too late for the feeding frenzy.
Sam's Club lets scalpers buy unlimited Pokemon boxes at this restock. Yeah, these people are never going to get their money back on any of this. In the end, I think they are probably going to lose all their money. They are going to be stuck with packets of trading cards, and they're not going to be able to move them as quickly as they thought. And you know something? That's a good thing. These people get what they fucking deserve, because they're ruining hobbies for everybody else. These are not supposed to be bought to be flipped for a profit. It's a trading card game. You collect the cards to build a deck to play with other people. You know, it's something you do to have fun, not to speculate on. If you're speculating on something like this, You've got no business being in any sort of business. You've got no business investing either. These are the sorts of people that are just, if they do have this much money to spend on something, they would be better off putting it into a retirement account and just buying some sort of baseline mutual funds or ETFs and just following what the financial advisor tells them to do to the letter. These people are going to be in for quite a rude awakening. More often than not, these people are quite terrible at timing these sorts of trends, and you come back to them later on, all this merch will be hoarded in some corner somewhere, and they're not going to be able to move it. Try Guys were a group of people. BuzzFeed created a video show around on YouTube where they tried stuff. They tried a testosterone test in one video. They all graded lower than prepubescent boys, old men in their 80s, despite being young men. Doesn't surprise me.
They've been the laughing stock of the internet and a bane on the existence of every honest Pikachu enjoyer for the last half-decade, and that is what Logan Paul is trying to bring to your local manga aisles and anime conventions. I mean, more of them than you already see at anime conventions and now at the booths that you actually want to visit.
It's sort of like the old meme joke about old men, these old boomers at American gun shows with these old-ass guns and rifles, trying to peddle them off for exorbitant prices, refusing to negotiate, been trying to push the same product for years now, and they refuse to budge on the price. And there's no use arguing with them because they always have the same refrain of, I know what I got. Yeah, you got some guns that are collecting dust and you're not going to be able to move because you won't move on the price. They're not as valuable as you think, old man. Take the L.
This much, many of you already know. But what you might not know is that what Logan Paul did to Pokemon and what he's doing to manga now was no accident. It was a calculated, coordinated plan involving multiple high-income investors to manipulate the Pokemon collectibles market for personal gain, and the exact
He's basically doing a rehash of the Hunt brothers trying to corner the silver market.
same guy who coordinated it with him then is behind this move into manga now. Before we get to him though, I owe my wife, Yazzie, a huge thanks for making this video possible
that's a cute
by
dress.
telling me everything I didn't know about the Pokemon TCG side of this story. Because she was there in the trenches, cracking Evolving Skies, Chillin' Rain, and Vivid Voltage as the whole hobby collapsed around her, and now she has a new hobby, Oshikatsu, the art of outwardly celebrating one's
Oshikatsu?
favorite things, which is kind of like the opposite of slabbing. And recently, with a bit of help
So
from
it's not performative, it's authentic. Please God, let that be the case.
our buddy Liam Rising Superstream, she got the chance to partner with Rio Rare, Japan's premier producer of Ita bags, to design her very own purse. I'm so proud
good.
of her. Now, a lot of these bags, as you can see, are made to
kinda neat.
display thinner merch like can badges and cards, stuff like that. But Yazzie's more into plushies, and the bags that she usually uses to take those out are kind of bulky, so she set out to create something sleeker with a cute little heart motif and square pockets set a little deeper into the bag so she could bring her babies out in style. However, she also knows
rather
how
clever.
important flexibility is to her fellow Oshikatsu enjoyers, so she came up with this honestly genius little clasp system that pulls the pocket up and flattens it out for anyone who wants a more conventional Ita bag setup instead. Now, since it is her first time collabing with Rio Rare, their pre-order window's only going to be open for a short while, from now until May 16th. So, if you want to get one of these beauties for yourself,
Oh, it's the end of
we
June now,
love,
Chad,
you better act
so,
fast at that
bit
link
late
in
for
the
that.
video.
Buy it for Frogjo!
Bye. Love you. Okay, now back to the guy. The man who taught Logan everything he knows about transactional collecting and convinced him to start streaming box openings in 2020, and the man with the connections that let him buy the PSA 10 illustrator from that anonymous collector in Dubai, is the very same man who just went in with him on those slabbed up shonen jumps.
He
Monsuno
looks very
co-creator
smarmy.
Jeremy Padawer.
This is the first
Padawer?
ever Weekly Shonen Jump from 1968.
What the hell kind of Star Wars name is that?
Weekly Shonen Jump allows the publisher to do is introduce a bunch of new brands, a bunch of new pieces of content. Naruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball all started here. This is like the grandparent of them all. Potential $1 million
They're still publishing to this
publication down
day.
the road.
There's more to Jeremy than just creating a late-to-the-party Pokemon knockoff no one remembers for Nickelodeon, though. As the CBO of Jazzwares and former CEO of Wicked Cool Toys, he's actually managed the global license for real Pokemon toys for nearly a decade at this point. And before that, he was handling Jakks Pacific's line of Pokemon toys, among many other brands. But before he did any of that, way back in the year 2000, Jeremy made out like a bandit in the dot-com boom, as the culmination of a website building law school side hustle built on the innovation of spelling the first word of domains with 2 A's so they'd come up first in search engines. But what did those websites actually do, you ask? Why, they were secondary marketplaces for hot collectibles of the time, like AbsoluteFurbies.com and AbsoluteBeanieBabies.com. It's often said, because it's true, that the only people making real money in a gold rush are the folks selling shovels. And Jeremy Padawer has been in the shovel business for 30 years, during which he's befriended quite a few of his...
So he was one of the few people who really, it sounds like he cashed out at just the right time. So many people, they lost everything with the dot-com bubble bursting. But, not this bloke. Sounds like a name taken on for business purposes. Yes, one wonders if there's supposed to be a Stein or a Berg or a Witz at the end of that just conveniently got taken off. Just curious about that.
Fellow shovel merchants and gold mine owners who all like to take turns selling their biggest nuggets back and forth to each other for increasingly large prices. But while that can be a decent, even fun way to store money, it's far from the best way to make it with your collectibles. For guys like this, the real grail isn't any of the rare or one-of-a-kind collectibles that they hoard and trade around to store their wealth. It's a very specific scenario. A chance for them and all their buddies to get in on the ground floor of a mass market gold rush for more common collectibles like Beanie Babies or comic books, where they can buy up stock before the plebs even come down with gold fever and make out like bandits. All because they predicted, or better yet, created the craze. And that is exactly what Jeremy Padawer had been trying to do with Pokemon for years before he met Logan Paul.
Is this all going to turn out to be just some sort of allegory about how the entire global economy is just fake and gay? I sense that's what's coming here, Chad. I sense that's what's coming here.
To make this set into $1 million set 10 years from now, it's not the fact that the Charizard card, which I'll show you, is 50 grand.
Oh, Alec, thank you for the tier 1 sub. I'm so sorry that all of the notifications are busted right now. I don't know what happened, but thank you for the tier 1 for 3 months, and thank you for the 10 stream watch streak.
It's the fact that the Pikachu is $400.
That was Jeremy talking to sports card collector Buster Share way back in 2019, trying to convince him that Red Cheeks Pikachu was the Pokemon equivalent of an OG Michael Jordan card. And he actually does make some pretty salient points in the interview, as you would expect from the manager of the global Pokemon toy license since 2018, and a guy who had been working with the Pokemon market before that. He had some
So, vested interest, possible conflict of interest, and you're trying to tell me something has value just because of the color of the cheeks on a picture of a Pikachu on a trading card that is made out of really thick paper. I'm sorry, but I can't help but think too hard about these sorts of things, and then it's like, make it make sense, man. And it just doesn't.
Very unique and powerful insights into the buying habits of fans that let him see a market primed to explode. But to actually press the detonator, he needed help. He needed Logan Paul.
For about 6 years, Logan and I have been friends.
He needed a pretty boy. Sort of like how a gay man needs a beard or something. He needed Logan Paul to come in and be his sort of company pimp and start pimping out these items to pump them up, cash out somehow, and then do the rug pull. Classic pump and dump. I can see where this is going.
We became friends around COVID, a little earlier actually. And dude, he reached out to me and he was
They were bored and they're just like, you know, we need some sort of new scam to rug pull people on and make lots of money. Because daddy needs another private jet and another fancy house and another expensive car and yet another expensive watch.
like, Jeremy, I want to learn more about collecting.
And to understand why, you first have to understand the incredible economic magic trick known as speculation. If you understand the basic principle of supply and demand, then you know there are two ways to raise the price of a thing. Either suppress the available supply, which is generally pretty difficult and expensive, or use cheap and easy...
Not unless you're Apple or, you know, some of these other luxury product companies.
Advertising to convince more people they want the thing. Of course, that generally depends on what the thing can actually do for them, but one thing that basically anything can do under the right conditions is be sold for more money than you paid for it. Those conditions naturally require demand for the thing to increase after you've bought it, which seems like kind of an advertising catch-22. But here's where that gets interesting. The mere idea that there could be more demand for a thing later can create demand for it now. If you can convince, say, a rich and famous YouTuber to tell all of his followers, I'm buying this thing for lots of money because I think it'll make me even more money later. If even a fraction of those followers believe him, it magically makes the thing worth more money of those because I think
This whole scene just looks so fake. I have hobnobbed with many a wealthy person, chat. They do not go around with lockboxes full of cash. That is an invitation for thieves right there. We were talking about something that's performative. This is performative. Or you can buy one thing and sell it so you can buy another thing which costs less but in higher quantity than the ones that trade specifically in that thing. That sounds complicated, but also yes.
it'll make me even more money later if even a fraction of those, because I think it'll
Look,
make
even this bird over here, she's just like, I can't fucking believe that I'm having to listen to all this shit. This is so fucking cringe. There's a dopey idiot over here like, yeah, bro, you really putting one on, bro. Yeah.
me even more money later if even a fraction of those followers believe him. It magically makes the thing worth more money now. And the fact that it's already worth so much more now naturally indicates that it's gonna be worth even more later, which in turn means, of course, that it's worth even more now. And a thing worth that much now has gotta be worth tubs of money later. And hey, would you look at that? It's worth buckets now.
A thing has... the TLDR of what he's talking about, chat, is a thing has been hyped up through a lot of clever marketing and feeding people a lot of lines of bullshit to make them think that something has value. Hence why we get to a place where
later, and hey,
you have a Charizard Pokemon card for sale on eBay for just under $12,000.
would you look at that? It's worth buckets now. This amazing trick works out great for everyone, except of course anyone who actually wants to own the thing for its intended purpose, like having manga to read or games to play or a house to live in. But who cares about them? You won't even be able to see those losers from where we're going on the fucking moon, baby! Unless, of course, literally anything happens to make the thing worth less money now, which, per the mechanics I just described, is not good. Like, say, for instance, the makers of
Not good and also extremely likely.
Beanie Babies or comic books notice a bunch of people buying up special editions and first issues at ridiculous prices, so they start making more of those things to collect some of that bag and end up flooding the market with them. To avoid that sort of thing and make it all the way to the moon, you need a way to manipulate not just the demand side of the market, but the supply. A way to manufacture scarcity, or better yet, the perception of scarcity, since, again, buying up enough stock to actually limit supplies is very expensive, whereas advertising and packaging are dirt cheap. If you can use those tools to denote a segment of the supply as being special in some way, and convince enough suckers that specialness makes it more valuable, then you can sell them something as worthless as a JPEG of a monkey for millions of dollars. But how to do that?
That literally happened with NFTs. That literally happened with NFTs.
When the JPEG is printed on cardstock? That's the question. And the answer is slabs. Trading card grading emerged as a practice and very fun phrase to say as an offshoot of the coin grading industry in the early 90s, amid a rash of Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card counterfeiting. Hence why the first grading company was called Professional Sports Authenticators, or PSA. Over the decade, with the rise of sites like eBay, PSA's forensic services became increasingly essential to sports card and TCG collectors, who in turn turn became increasingly obsessed with the idea of owning certified, perfectly centered and printed copies of their favorite and rarest cards.
It became a racket. It became a racket, in other words. PSA made their money by, what, effectively selling certifications or selling their services, their grading services, to certify certain items, and not a tennis racket. Yeah, no. The other kind of racket, the actual racketeering, corruption, graft, as it's often called. Another layer of fakeness and gayness to something that's already quite fake and gay.
Though ultimately it would be PSA's competitor, Beckett Media, whose Black Label came to be seen as the true gold standard of perfection among those hardcore enthusiasts. That's the power of packaging. This was naturally true for Pokemon cards too, where—
I mean, well, what's the difference? Both of them appear to hermetically seal cards in these specialty packs. I don't get it. One, I mean, this one looks fairly utilitarian. The other one has this sort of kind of fancy black marble look to it. Sounds like the consumers are being stupid and causing stupid. Yes, there really is a sucker born every minute, apparently.
among the hardest core of collectors, top-graded cards commanded top dollar. Though that was only ever really true for the rarest and most desirable chase cards from each set, the hollow foils and full arts. I mean, it cost 20 bucks a pop, plus shipping and handling both ways just to get a card graded. Way more if you wanted to skip the line and get the highest-end photo analysis done. No one was gonna shell that out for a random 30-cent EX card. That would be stupid. But what if they did, though? What if you could convince the world at large that every random piece of Poke Pack filler could be turned into gold if only the mighty card alchemists proclaimed and preserved its perfection in the—
They're injecting gacha elements into this now. Here comes the gambling. They're injecting gambling into this. It's like there's people obsessed with sneakers or baseball caps and unbroken sealed bags with stickers and all. Yeah, the sort of new old stock collectors.
a magic plastic. When Logan Paul made headlines with his PSA 10 illustrator, PSA became a household name overnight, irrevocably associated in the mind of the average Joe with the very idea that Pokemon cards could be worth big money at all. And to those Joes, the PSAs with the biggest numbers are naturally worth the biggest money across the board, regardless of their actual play or collecting value to anyone who's really in the hobby. I mean, sure, there might be several million VMAX Morpekos out there, but only 737 of those are PSA 10s. 75 bucks please, Mr. eBay sir. Or, if you get a PSA 9 back, you could maybe get $24.99 for it, which you'll note isn't even your grading and shipping costs back, let alone the actual price of the card. Funny how the collecting bros who encourage all the Walmart scalpers to go grade all their cards and video games and comics and everything else never mention that part, or the part where you could get back a super common grade that's worth less than the raw you sent in, which mathematically has to be what happens most of the time, because if the cards that are worth thousands of dollars weren't exceedingly rare, they wouldn't be worth thousands of dollars, and per the mechanics of speculation, the possibility that any raw card could be gets baked into their pricing in the same way that—
This just sounds like a massive, massive scam. The whole grading thing, and this is the sort of thing that, like with credit agencies, just brought down in the entire global economy back in 2008. I'm taking all of this in, and I'm just like, this is a microcosm of the 2008 financial crisis. This honestly sounds like a microcosm of the '08 financial crisis, with a lot of toxic assets out there being given higher grades than what they really are. This all just sounds so sleazy, and just I'm detecting a lot of bullshit and a lot of dishonesty going on with this. It's like, do I have specific evidence? No. But when this fucker gets involved, you know it's a massive red flag. You know it's probably time to get out. So like the wealth management products being sold in the housing speculation markets by banks. Yeah, things like that. Mix some A bracket with some D bracket and C bracket, and you have a wealth management product. Yeah. And the D bracket stuff is actually way worse than what it's being sold as. It's worse than D bracket.
Sealed product that could have the big chase cards is almost always more expensive than what you actually find inside when you crack it. I digress though. Just as Walmarts and Targets across the nation were finding themselves infested with scalpers, grading companies suddenly had a new, much larger and less informed base of customers of their own, clogging up their order queues to the point that grading weights once counted in days or weeks were now measured in months, which in turn...
That means potentially a lot of money for the people that are doing the grading. A long queue like that, you might even be able to get away with charging a premium. Yeah, he's right. There's some people making some serious money off of it. It's not you and me. It's not the average bloke on the street. It's the people at these rating companies, at these grading companies. And of course, Pokemon and Nintendo.
Turn forced the more serious collectors with more serious collectors' items to pony up hundreds of dollars for the express line service. And despite the fact
yeah, there
that
we go.
those
Yeah, you can pay a premium to jump the queue. You can pay a premium to jump the queue, and I will bet that premium keeps going up because everybody is just so sure that they've got themselves a rare Charizard card that's just going to fund their retirement account, fund the kids' university fund, and just they're going to be living on easy street. And some arsehole at the rating company Beckett gets their hand on it and just like, nah, D grade.
Collectors still saw Beckett as the gold standard. It was PSA that ended up with the bulk of that business, in no small part thanks to Paul and pals constantly mentioning them in podcasts and interviews.
It's subtle guerrilla advertising. They keep mentioning the name over and over again, and people start looking into them. You have to wonder if PSA and Logan Paul worked out some sort of deal where he goes out and gasses them up, and he gets paid per mention or something like that.
Now, full disclosure, in all of the digging I've done, I can't find any evidence that PSA paid Logan or Jeremy for any of that publicity, so
if they're a publicly traded company of some kind, you never will find out. I know that's probably something that they are working very hard precisely to avoid having to disclose to anyone.
it is entirely possible it was all a happy accident for them. The happiest accident of their entire careers. But there are a lot of ways you could
that's like saying
compensate
that's like saying it's just a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences.
Someone without actually creating a paid promotion that would need to be disclosed, like free or discounted expedited grading, or even, just fudging some numbers here and there. Many folks online have opined that in photos, Paul's illustrator looks a little off-center and nicked up for a 10. I mean,
that's probably because it is. Once again, you have a grading company, the equivalent in the collector's realm of a credit rating agency, giving inflated ratings to an asset. We've seen this picture before and we know exactly how it ends. It ends with people like Logan Paul taking the bag and fucking off somewhere where there's more bank secrecy and less extradition treaties, while people like you and me are just left holding the bag, losing everything. For a lot of people, deservedly so, but still, enough people losing everything, and it's still wrong. Enough people still being taken advantage of in the naivete. And make no mistake, people like Logan Paul do take advantage of a lot of impressionable people, especially impressionable young people. Jensen, thank you for the follow. Even the brands he was part of turned into pyramid schemes for the investors. Prime is a prime example. Yeah, whatever happened to Prime? They finally shut down. It's like the Paul brothers, all they know is how to scam people. They could have turned Prime into something, into a really good company offering a really good product. It had a lot of potential. Well, they just couldn't help themselves, I guess.
Are only 40 of those cards in the entire world in any condition, so it would be a huge statistical anomaly if even one of them actually was perfect. Certainly not impossible, and of course there's no way to check without seeing the card in person, which definitely is impossible, but, you know, something to think about, as is the fact that the controversies and scandals section of PSA's Wikipedia page is 4 times as long as their company history. Of course, it could also simply be that Paul, Padawer, and all of their pals saw...
So, PSA is not trustworthy. Not trustworthy. If you've got that much controversy, that much scandal, we really can't say that we can trust your rating system.
The PSA brand as being undervalued, bought up a lot of cheaper relative to Beckett PSA 10 cards, and then started talking up things like PSA 10 Charizards and complete PSA 10 base sets as the grails of Pokemon in order to inflate the value of their own collections. You know, as a little side benefit to Paul's main plan at the time of building hype for his then in development liquid marketplace scam.
Another scam that he was working on. It's sort of like talking heads going on CNBC or Bloomberg, talking up certain publicly traded stocks. And oh, what a surprise, they happen to have those stocks in their portfolio. Oh, what a surprise, they work for a brokerage that they're trying to push those stocks very heavily to their account holders. Never understood baseball card value when they weren't part of playing a game. I now don't understand the value of Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Well, the thing that separates Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh cards from baseball cards are just, that's all they are, it's just collector's items. Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh cards, actually, there's a game behind them. So that's the big difference behind the two. Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, you can actually play a game, and there are rules to them, to playing these games. Baseball cards are just, that's all they are, they're just collectibles. They used to be things that you would buy when you purchased chewing gum or cigarettes. Now it's like, what even is the point?
Carl Jobst made an excellent video about that a few months back, by the way, linked up in the corner, where he also showed a few other examples of how high-profile record-setting collectible sales are almost always ads in disguise for something else, where the buyer intentionally overpays for an item in order to create hype around the idea that running your collection through whatever service they're trying to sell you can help make you rich. It's a real good way to sell shovels. Anyway, regardless of the reason, I doubt anyone at PSA was upset at the outcome of Paul and Padawer's.
I follow you can play, but I don't think these cards are ever getting put in a deck, or if they're really any good. Most of them, when you're buying them in the packs, they're probably shit. It's rare that you get just going off of basic odds, if we're injecting some sort of gambling element into it, let's just be fucking real. You buy TCG packs these days. It's a gacha system. It's gambling. And you are gambling that you're going to get some sort of super rare card, which odds are you're not. You're going to have a lot of very common, very shit cards. If you want something in particular, you're going to have to go out to the secondary market and find that particular card and buy it, which is also an expensive proposition. And once you have built an impressive enough deck, you play the card game against other players who also have done the same thing as you, built up a deck. And it's like so many other just classic playing card games of old with like just a standard deck of cards. You shuffle up your deck and you play the hand that you dealt. And like a good poker player, you play that hand even if it's absolute shit, as though it was the hand that you wanted all along, and just hope and pray that you win. It's a gross oversimplification. I'm sure there's people out there, even in my community, who are TCG card players that might find certain small points of disagreement with that, but I think that's overall fairly decent TLDR on trading card games. I like those chewing gum tattoo stickers that could be washed off as a kid. Oh yeah, I remember those.
Promotion, which gave their business such a boost that by December 2025, their parent company, Collectors Holdings, was able to acquire
Wait.
Their
Hold on. So Beckett and PSA, they're all They're all part of the same corporate umbrella. So really, this is just all one gigantic monopoly. Fucking hell. No wonder they're being so dishonest in their ratings. No wonder they're doing such sleazy, scummy tactics like this. They can get away with it because they've got the bloody monopoly.
Company Collectors Holdings was able to acquire Beckett outright, giving them control over 80% of the global card grading market. Antitrust
Fucking
laws?
hell.
Never heard of them. And with that move,
Oh, good luck trying to go after anyone for something like that in this day and age, and especially in the United States. That is the one thing about I think is just a major detriment to the current Trump administration is antitrust, anti-monopoly law enforcement. They absolutely cannot be bothered. They cannot be asked. They do not care. Everything could consolidate into a gigantic, cyberpunk-esque super monopoly, and they will do absolutely fuck all to stop it. When in any other time or era, the feds would have broken that shit up real quickly.
they also gained control over 100% of the global manga grading market. Because exactly 1 year before collectors
how
bought them
convenient.
out, Beckett announced that grading manga was a thing they were apparently gonna be doing now, despite literally nobody in the manga collecting community asking for it. And naturally, nobody went
like,
for it either.
what? No.
Right now, there's this dude on the manga rarity subreddit, which is tiny and only exists because r/manga collectors banned speculation, flexing that he's got the only
Based.
graded haiku #1. Not the only 9.6, the only one in the world. Just keep that in mind whenever you hear top grade in the world, population 1. The distinction is meaningless
It's
unless
like, who
you
the
give
fuck
it.
cares?
And there are two big problems that have stopped manga fans from
Not to get you off track, but have you covered the minifigs Lego theft from Reckless Ben's channel? The gag got lifted recently, so part 3 soon. I have not really touched that that whole story, Derek. I actually haven't really gotten into it. I have sort of looked at some of the kind of 50,000-foot view of what's going on there. Yeah, all I know is the TLDR, it's a bunch of corrupt Mormons doing corrupt Mormon things. It's sort of behavior that has previously given Mormons a really bad rep, and they're doing it again, and it's starting to it's starting to damage their aura. Yeah, lots of Mormons in that town protecting bad Mormons. Yes, or some people have called them Mountain Jews doing Mountain Jew things. I thought it was rather funny. I did not know that Mormons were referred to as Mountain Jews, but you know, here we are. Action Bastard, welcome in. Good to see you. How are you? You came in at just the right time. We're talking about Mountain Jews and Lego minifigs and, you know, trading card game scams and, you know, ratings agencies that are acting like bond rating agencies back in the '08 financial crisis. I'm good, as you just said, it came at the right time. Jigs, welcome in. I heard, I came in, heard Jews in the mountains. What? Yes, Mormons. Apparently, they're also referred to as Mountain Jews. Because, you know, they live in the mountains in Utah, where there's lots of mountains. Shadim Brooks from Shadversity did a video on it, and Donut Operator reacted to some videos so people would stop bothering him about it. Well, I suppose if you bother me enough about it, I might be inclined to do some reactions just, you know, to get you to shut up about it. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we can take a look at it. I don't know. I want to see what else develops from it. You said there's a part 3. I would like to maybe wait until we get that part 3. But yeah, it's not a good look, and it's making the Mormons look really bad.
Giving manga grades any meaning at all over the last few years. Firstly, real manga collectors collect manga so they can read that manga.
Yeah, this right here, this guy, whoever this is, they're one of the real ones. They are OG manga collectors. This is one of the real ones. Or this could be a manga library that you check out copies to read and then you put them back on the shelf. Either way, this is real shit right here. Believe me, there's about 5 videos. There's plenty to talk about. It went sideways so fast. It really did. You know, look, if this was before the age of the internet, if this were 30 years ago, they would have gotten away with it quite easily. Because the world was still so much of a disconnected, larger, isolated place. Nowadays, in the age of social media, and in the age of free and, well, mostly free, mostly open discussion on places like Twitter, you can't get away with that shit anymore. Not so easily, anyway. You've got to get a bit clever, like the Paul brothers, and get really elaborate with your rug pull scams and your cryptocurrency scams. And, you know, also have an army of lawyers to sue the fuck out of anybody who dares to look at you the wrong way. It's almost as if crime is bad. I know, right? What a concept. It's almost as if corruption is a bad thing, and how tribalism can go so wrong so quickly. That's the thing. Mormons are one of the few groups of white people that understand and implement tribalism. And in a way, they do it well, or they have done it well for the time. The thing is, they don't know when to drop the whole tribalism bit and recognize they're part of a greater whole, and when to double down. They're doubling down at the wrong time and effectively going full retard. You never want to go full retard and that sort of thing. No, thank you for the hydrate and stretch redeem. I have any Dr. Pepper left? I have a drop. I hydrated with a drop of Dr. Pepper. I'll get some more later.
Rare manga is only valuable to us because it's out of print and thus harder to read. So the idea of turning one of those treasures into a glorified doorstop is an affront to anyone who actually participates in the hobby.
Yeah, you put them in that pack and it's basically, it's hermetically sealed. Pretty fucking hard to get it out of there. And it's like, but exactly right. The old manga is meant to be read. And if it's out of print, I mean, all the more reason it needs to be digitized and archived. That just turning it into some sort of speculative alternative investment asset of some kind. And we use the term asset advisedly, very loosely. Yeah, this is something that is just really shaping up to end in unmitigated disaster for a lot of people. And the only ones ultimately that are going to be getting rich are the ratings companies, which turns out they're a fucking monopoly now, and the company pimps in the form of Logan Paul. There's a sort of mistake I recognize from childhood. They see letting someone in as risking the position of challenging their setup, and so they respond as if it were an actual threat. Yeah, it's a way overblown fight or flight response, rather than assess whether or not that could have been a potential ally. Yeah, they could have played the long game. They could have played the long game, and who knows, maybe even invited somebody in. Doesn't mean you should just let everyone in. Yes.
But the other, bigger problem is the
one of the original JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
grades themselves are obviously complete bullshit. With coins and cards, there are clear manufacturing standards that individual items can be graded against, like how centered is the print, how shiny is the metal, are the ink layers all properly aligned, how much of the original stamp on the coin has eroded over time. But with
with coins, with numismatics, there's an actual science to that sort of thing. And the people who grade that, they actually know what the fuck they're doing. All this other shit we've been looking at thus far, it's a confidence game. It's a con game.
Book? I mean, yeah, depending on the design, you might be able to judge how centered the cover is.
Delicious and dungeon.
As soon as you look inside, the system falls apart. If you've ever flipped through a book before, you'll notice that the numbers in the corner move all over the place with every single page. That's because every one of them is printed and cut separately. So they will never be perfectly aligned when they're all bound together. It's mathematically impossible. Therefore, the only thing graders can really grade beyond obvious wear and tear or factory damage is the whiteness of those not quite aligned pages. And if you look at this Shonen Jump that I grabbed from my local konbini last year, you'll notice none of the pages are white. The closest they get is off gray because they print this shit on the cheapest phone book grade recycled newsprint they can find to make
this is something they sell in the newsstands at konbini in Japan, and they use newspaper grade recycled paper, most of it printed black and white. This is stuff that is done on the cheap. Probably the most expensive part of printing a copy of Shonen Jump is the front, back cover, and the spine. That's it. All the rest of that is the equivalent of cheap filler that just happens to have an entertaining story drawn out. Or several, in fact.
Printing at peak 6 million right now, like 2 million a week, remotely viable. Anyone who calls a given Shonen Jump white is
Steel Bear, welcome in.
lying to your face.
How you doing?
You have a weekly Shonen Jump Dragon Ball 9-2 here with, look closely, exceptional white pages, which I believe is one of the only Beckett exceptional white.
Yeah, of any comic.
I mean, they just said Shonen Jump does not print on white paper. It's all grayscale. I mean, even most of your newspapers it's not pure white paper. I mean, I don't know who has picked up a copy of the newspaper as of late, but even that is not pure white, not even close. Most of the time, it's grayscale. And Rosso, welcome in. Good to see you.
Yeah, like look at the color of the pages.
Of course, comic grading is still a thing in spite of similar objections
boo that
in
man,
space,
boo.
but it's only really a thing with floppies there. So thankfully, it doesn't have as negative an effect on comic readers as it could, because they can always just get the trade paperbacks instead. Those collected volumes you see in bookstores and whatnot tend to...
That's, honestly, if I'm going to read comics, this is the way I prefer to do it. These sort of trade paperback compilations where everything is condensed into a single volume. Most of the time it is recycled grey paper. Yeah, that's what I figured. Things are going good. Possible other bits regarding things. Well, that's good.
Get larger, longer-lasting print runs.
Oh, that one I have read. Watchmen in trade paperback. And that was good. Alan Moore, absolute legend. I believe I've read through most of Frank Miller's Batman Dark Knight Returns.
And the floppies, so only an...
They'll stain your hands if you pick them up in the morning as they're fresh, yes. But even if they're not fresh, I mean, after a while, just the warmth, the heat, and the sweat from your fingers, yeah, that stuff rubs off. It used to happen to me all the time when I used to read the Wall Street Journal or the Financial Times. Not to mention complete sets are complete sets. You don't have to scour garage sales to find one or two issues that you'll miss when trying to find the small books. Exactly.
Idiot would try to slab a trade, even a first printing, because everyone knows the real first print is the floppy. On that note, now feels like a good time to point out that Japanese-style trade paperbacks, or tankobons, are literally the only format that 99% of manga have ever been available in on the English market. And
that's true. That's true. Yeah, most of the time when we get our translated manga, I mean, they did, I think, for the time, have an English language version of Shonen Jump. They might still have it. I don't know. But yeah, most of the time we get our manga in the West translated and in the paperback form. That's what you'll find in most manga libraries in the West, especially over in Japan. They might have a few of the more recent issues of Shonen Jump and similar publications, but most of the time it's going to be books like this. I find floppies to be really annoying. I'd rather pay $15 for a complete series paperback and $5 for a 10-page floppy, and that's part 1 of 12 in a storyline. I can understand that, yeah. It's like, don't keep me in suspense. I just want to... It's like a series available on streaming. You don't really want to wait for the next episode to come out, unless it's a really, really good series that you're really looking forward to. Most of the time, you would prefer to just binge watch the whole thing. It's the same thing with manga. You want all the volumes so you can just binge read the whole thing right through. Most useful thing newspapers can be used for these days is starting a fire to the fireplace or in the garden or cleaning windows. True. Another reason I like manga, when I buy an issue of Goblin Slayer, I get my money's worth, not some 7 to 12-page part of a story. Yeah, that's the thing when you buy Shonen Jump, if you're able to buy the original and read Japanese, it's a serialized story where you're getting a little portion of it. Some, maybe 7, 12 pages tops before they move on to the next story. And then you've got to wait another week or another month to find out what happened to your favorite characters. There's always a cliffhanger, which in a way, it's effective marketing. Keeps you on the edge of your seat. Keeps you wondering, gosh, what's gonna happen to the hero? Is a villain going to get away with this one? Etc., etc. And what do? You go out and you buy the next issue.
That's the shit Beckett is trying to convince comic speculators to slab up by using a Japanese word that they don't know what it means. But why would they do such a thing? The manga equivalent of Floppies, Zashi, like Shonen Jump, pretty much only exist in Japanese, outside a very brief stint in the 2000s where Viz tried to make English Jump and Shoujo Beat a thing.
I remember
and while
reading
those are less common...
I remember reading the English language Shonen Jump for a while. It wasn't half bad. It honestly felt like a direct translation. And they were really... This was back when they were really quite faithful in those translations and really tried to replicate that experience of what it's like to read the Japanese version. Oftentimes with adverts and everything, it was really cool. It really felt like something exotic, like a real exotic import that you were getting in the West. Didn't really read Shoujo Beat, that was more of a girls thing, but yeah, Shonen Jump, English language, those were cool. Now when I buy Young Animal, I don't get a chapter of Berserk, but Young Animal has some amazing articles. Young Animal is basically Japan's Playboy. And certain sections of the periodicals and magazine aisle in Konbini, they'll sell you more than Playboys, but you better be 18 plus for that. Which all of you in the audience don't really have to worry about that.
Than tankobons, and do have some nostalgia value for millennials like me. As translated reprints, they're still never gonna have the true first appearance provenance of an Action Comics #1 or Amazing Fantasy 15. There are some collectors of Kizashi or first chapters in the West, but it's always been a niche interest for us because we can't read them. We don't really have any nostalgic attachment to this format. The print quality sucks, and they just take up a lot of shelf space.
You saw it there just now. They're incredibly faded. You are literally better off waiting for the trade paperback equivalent, the compilation volumes, where the paper quality is much better, image quality much better. It's not as faded. It's printed in a much more starker black and white. As Weekly Shonen Jump is not really... it's for the people who don't want to wait.
So there was basically no way that Beckett could ever sustain an English-facing business by only grading these. They needed to convince people to start slabbing tanks just to stay afloat, and not just the few genuinely special first print tankobons like Gold Text One Piece, all of them. Manga fans just weren't biting though, and any scalpers who might raid their local bookstores on Beckett's behalf were already busy shoving 8-year-olds into shelves at Walmart. But if Logan Paul could make hundreds of graded VMAX Morpekos happen by publicly overpaying for some cardboard, then maybe he can make graded tankobons happen by publicly overpaying for a book. If you watch the announcement video, they're not even subtle about what they're doing.
It's videos like these that are going to make people go searching for their addicts to see if they got better copies.
By the way,
than us.
if you have a better copy, will you at least call us first?
Yeah, hit us up. We're buying.
Come on.
Though do take
The laugh. That fucking laugh. It's just like they know they're pulling one over on everyone. They know they're pulling one over on everyone, and yet they persist. Unbelievable. Got to appreciate the honesty at least. I mean, yeah, they're not clever enough to, especially Logan Paul. He's not clever enough to just not come out and say it at some point. But man of his time, he can just come out and say it, and nobody's really going to do anything about it. This may yet be another thing that he gets away with. We can never really predict when or if there's going to be one of these scams that finally does him in. It's going to take a shifting of the times, a shifting of the culture, and he's going to have to be caught in a moment where he's against that sort of cultural tide, and then he gets made an example of, which is a more advanced way of saying it'll work until it doesn't. I mean, they're selling GTA 6 for $100. People are going to buy it in droves. Of course they have the confidence to sling a gold-painted dog turd. Yeah, it will work until it doesn't, and we really have no idea when it is going to stop working. I honestly wish it would stop working a lot sooner rather than later, because frankly, we are overdue for a recession, for a massive correction. But I honestly wonder if it's ever going to happen. I am to the point now where I am kind of praying for the recession at this point, of some sort of global economic crash. If it comes out about it, he'll talk about how bad he feels and make it about him being a victim of the effects and addictive nature, this or that. Yeah, he's done it before. He'll do it again, because people forget, and as long as enough people forget, he can keep doing the same old routine over and over again. As long as they're dumb people, there's money to be made doing this sort of stuff. True. Real.
take note, because it'll help you understand other scams in the future, of how they cloak the blatant sales pitch for grading in an even more blatant pitch of, hey, hit us up, we're buying. They know their target audience isn't gonna bite on that. They know a potential speculator's gonna see that and think, aha, you tried to get me, Mr. Paul, but I'm smart enough to hodl the manga so I can make even more money later, never realizing
to the
that
moon.
what they're really being sold is the idea that an unreadable book in a useless plastic box is magically worth more than the book alone. Logan and Jeremy aren't alone, though. There are dozens of card and crypto bro sycophants talking up manga investments in their replies and quotes, LARPing as longtime otaku who still have their One Piece from 20.
What's with everyone going into collecting mangas and it's with $1 million? What the fuck? I still have my first 51 piece from like 25 years ago, dusted in my childhood room untouched. Maybe I should get mine and grade it. If Logan Paul really thinks he got a lot of love from One Piece fans, he's delusional. Dude needs to talk about Luffy or show how pirate king he is, and some of us will give him love and support. I'm not the only one that feels this way. Community notes, the One Piece community did not, in fact, give Logan Paul any love. Good. Good, because he doesn't deserve that. He doesn't deserve that. He's not OG. He's not gangster. He's not down for a dust struggle. He ain't representing. He's just a buster. He's a poser. He's probably gay. Anyway.
5 years ago and are maybe gonna get it graded, and attacking anyone who dares to question the wisdom of their investing gurus. They've got dudes on Reddit hyping each other up about their tankobon gets and all the generational wealth they're about to generate in conversations indistinguishable from any NFT presale, and dudes who already have generational wealth selling slabs back and forth to each other at many times their market value.
Another fool got scammed. $12,000 is absurd. Yes, 12 grand for Dragon Ball special sneak preview. A sneak preview, not even a full manga. They're doing it to English manga volumes as well. The actual scam is pretending it's a legit sale. Those are rich guys buying the manga from each other to create the illusion of demand. It's sort of like that thing with a certain number of, millions of billions of dollars that for a while was just sort of being passed around by tech companies. Anyone remember that? Anyone remember that? Where I think it was something to do with private equity, I'm not sure. But there was a some ungodly sum of money in the millions, possibly billions of dollars, and just a handful of companies, mostly tech companies, just sort of signing deals with each other and just passing this money around. And that was really all of the activity that they had as companies for a while. And it was just all over the media at a time when I don't think they were all doing rather well as companies, and they're probably still not doing well. But they needed a distraction, and so that's what they went with. This is just, it really is just rich people handing money around to each other to try and raise the price on these things. And when one of the plebiscites finally scrapes up enough cash, or manage to get themselves enough of a debt instrument to finance the purchase, that's when the rich guys, they cash out. They do the rug pull, and it's like, oh, surprise, it's not really worth 12 grand. That's probably not even worth 100. More like 20, maybe. Reminds me of that Three Stooges scene where they hand around the same money until they're debt-free, they're debt to each other. Yeah. But please, do go on about how so much of the global economy is not a gigantic shell game. How it's not all fake and gay. Please, do tell me more.
Value just to create the illusion of demand. This is called wash trading, and in traditional commodities markets, it's actually illegal, but in a neat little legal loophole, individual collectibles don't count as commodities, so you can just do whatever you want with those.
And that's probably a lot of commodities traders and speculators getting in on this. They've got money that they need to show some sort of return with. They're not able to do it with the traditional means, so they've just been going into further and further more exotic, quote-unquote, investments, and doing so in areas where they're not subject to the normal rules, like they would with anything else. And they're taking advantage of that. And they're taking advantage of the people. But hey, anything to make big line go up, right?
And just as they did and do with Pokemon cards, they've been doing it with manga for the last year or so. Just take a look at this totally legit auction reported by Swaggle House in
Manga just put up 40k plus in sales on Heritage last week. That Heritage auctions chat, in case you don't know. Not a perfect comp, graded V raw, but it's the best public auction data we have. The increase is massive. Has the manga market arrived? Well, the scam has certainly arrived, hasn't it? Let's see, this particular copy of Shonen Jump with One Piece, up 518% in 6 months. Sold October 2025, just under 7 grand. Late March of the following year, $42,500. That is... And then Weekly Shonen Jump number 51, First Dragon Ball. Sold November 17th, 2022 for $6,000. Late March 2026, 45 grand. Up 650% in 4 years. That is no investment on the planet that can come anywhere near those types of returns without raising a lot of eyebrows and a fuck ton of red flags. These are valuations that are just completely divorced from reality. I don't even need to look at the numbers or do any sort of advanced technical analysis to know this is a scam. This is a gigantic scam. That's insane. It is. And again, just everything that we've established so far, no way in hell are either of these worth over 40 grand. I would give someone maybe a $5 for both of them at an estate sale.
Early April of, by an astounding coincidence, the exact same 2 Zashi that Logan Paul was planning to buy just 16 days later.
What
with
a
graded
shocker.
Dragon Ball going for 45 grand and One Piece for 42.5.
They needed the headline, and Logan Paul delivered. Is in a roundabout way, it is like that old telegram from William Randolph Hearst. You supply the pictures, I'll supply the war.
Now, just looking at how close those prices are, anyone who knows anything about these books can immediately tell something's up here. The 42-year-old Dragon Ball Kizashi
you think
is
so?
substantially rarer than the 29-year-old One Piece one, for which both the current and previous sales prices shown here are ridiculously inflated. The last recorded Heritage auction sales for One Piece from from before Beckett Bros started pumping the prices was in 2023 for a much less insane $2,000, and even that is well above the market average. Looking at eBay listings from this year, a near mint copy in Britain sold for about
600 quid. About $800 US.
$800 on March 11th, and on April 17th, this one went for $1,600. And before WrestleMania, you'd find these things going for even lower prices on Mercari and Yahoo auctions in Japan all the time. But ironically, it's the slabs that really lay the lie bare here. A Dragon Ball 6.5 and a One Piece 5.5 going for 40 grand? Any remotely credulous reporter would immediately question that, but we don't got one of those.
No, those don't exist anymore. Really, all of this amount, this 40 grand, this is the what they're calling the slab, the hermetic seal, if you will. That's what so much of this, like 99.99% of it is going to. That's what you're paying for. The grading racket. 702 euros, or about just over 5,000 Danish krone. Yeah.
Swagglehouse and friends, whose other friends really want them to sell you some Beckett slabs.
But of course, this all started with, when friend of the channel, Jeremy Padawer, talked about, his speculation of manga. What if manga becomes the biggest collecting vertical and like Beckett becomes the grading company?
With Jeremy and his content on that table, he's got like 100 Beckett slabbed mangas, right? Because he's spending a ton of money. This is great for Beckett branding.
Guys, let's take a quick moment to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Heritage Auction.
Was that the legendary double shill technique?
Jeremy is obviously investing in the top end of things. That's why the prices are enormous. So maybe it really is just scratching the surface. Maybe this idea of buy your slabbed mangas now is still very early.
And once you're aware of that agenda, you start to see it everywhere in these collectors' posts. They're all taking legitimately rare and pricey manga or one-of-a-kind items like scripts, then surrounding them with common tankobons to create the appearance of value by association. Oh
yeah, it's just a matter of time. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Of course someone's going to do something like that. And that's going to bring the credibility of the grading system into question even further. And it's going to sink the whole racket. And you know what? Good. Let it happen. Monopoly money. I mean, at this point, it's such crazy, stupid money. With crazy, stupid, ungodly people that have more money than good sense.
Who can afford it are intentionally grossly overpaying for top grades out of the few dozen first print tanks that have ever been graded, all to trick you into thinking that One Piece, Dragon Ball, and Naruto Volume 1, some of the most printed books in the history of books, will magically become rare treasures if only they're encased in the magic plastic. I wonder who posted that photo. Oh, hey! Would you look at that?
Major milestone for manga collecting. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Major milestone for your bank account, at least. He just paid 275 grand for these first print manga volumes. Brother man, you paid too much. And we know what you're doing here. You're just doing money laundering. Money laundering, maybe a bit of tax dodging. That's all this is. And it's just ruining hobbies for the rest of us. And maybe that's the overarching lesson in all this chat. Example number 13,575,323. Gatekeep your hobbies.
At Beckett Collectibles. And of course, Jeremy's right there in the quotes expressing a high level of conviction for this extraordinary and
He would not know a high level of conviction about anything if it came and bit him in the arse.
Looked category. Conviction that's supposed to mean something, coming from the man who predicted Pokemon, an angle that you can find Jeremy playing up elsewhere on his own Twitter. But in that same video, he made another prediction that immediately discredits the idea he has any prophetic powers.
And once you get beyond Pokemon, go a couple more years to Yu-Gi-Oh! In 2002, I have the PSA 10 Blue Eyes White Dragon card, the grail of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Anyone who knows anything about Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community can tell you that's nonsense. With a very small handful of exceptions, the only value a
cue the Yu-Gi-Oh! Autists in chat. Also, not everything has to be collected. Some stuff can actually be enjoyed, believe it or not. I know, right? And they're ruining that for all of us. It's like, just let us enjoy things for once. Stop trying to turn everything into some sort of scam or a grift or some sort of money-making scheme. Just stop it. Just let people enjoy things. It's like, put your money in a standard retirement fund and just live off the dividends and interest, mate. At some point, you got enough.
Yu-Gi-Oh card will ever have is its ability to win games. Rarity is only a factor for staples, either because you can flex on a motherfucker while playing out your entire very shiny deck in one turn, or because maybe Konami's keeping a new power card rarity lock to make more money selling more boosters. If one card gets banned, a $1,500 deck can drop to $40 literally overnight.
And that's the one thing with Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm told, not being an expert in any of this, so take what I'm saying about Yu-Gi-Oh! The Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game with a huge mound of salt. Konami changes the rules on Yu-Gi-Oh! And I think they do it rather often, to the point where if something gets a bit too OP, they won't just nerf it, they'll ban it. And one of the prime examples, I think, is Blue Eyes White Dragon. If I remember right, and I may need, Solitone or somebody else to correct me on this, I believe they banned the card almost completely, or maybe they did completely ban the use of Blue Eyes White Dragon, along with a few other cards that had previously become, really popular and also incredibly OP.
Speculator's worst nightmare. When Logan Paul announced he was getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! Last month, no doubt on Jeremy's advice, the entire community laughed him out of the room. And we can too. We do, unfortunately, just have to accept that the richest LARPers in the room are gonna buy up the rarest, most one-of-a-kind anime-related items. In any growing fandom, stuff like that floats to and past the top.
They can afford to pay to win.
But we don't have to accept their LARPing premise that a several 100,000 of a kind Zashi like One Piece Chapter 1 is one of a kind just because no other plastic box has the same arbitrary number on it. We don't have to acknowledge that this specific dragon...
Magic the Gathering has done it too. Have they? Well, that doesn't surprise me. Yeah, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, some of the ones that they go hard. This isn't your older brother's TCG anymore. Things have changed. I'm told quite dramatically.
Dragon Ball Jump that they grossly overpaid for is the Dragon Ball Jump, because it's not. It only becomes the Dragon Ball if enough idiots buy into their scheme to submit their own copies for grading, which would put it at the top of a pile of hundreds rather than currently dozens. And make no mistake, Paul's copy will stay on top of that pile. Beckett has no reason to grade any submission higher, no matter how many they get, because the whole system is
and no matter how much bribe money people send their way, which there's got to be some bribery going on behind the scenes. I haven't followed it in over 20 years, but they have in the past. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I'm so out of it when it comes to TCGs. Never really got into them myself. I think I had a brief opportunity when I was a wee lad to maybe get into the early version of the Pokemon trading card game, and I also remember the adverts for the Star Wars collectible card game. That one was interesting too. That one never really took off as much as the Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic. But yeah, I don't know, never really piqued my interest. I was just like, why would I play a trading card game of Pokemon when I've got the game on my Game Boy? I can just play that. That's better. That's got graphics and it's got sound. It's got all the cool stuff. The nerds are being displaced by genocidal immigration into their fandoms. Yes, very, very true and very real. They are, and it's rich fucks like Logan Paul that that are driving all of that. Dip in and out of Yu-Gi-Oh once in a while. I remember why I don't play it for more than just a little bit. These days, I think you need a pretty heavy dose of autism in order to truly enjoy the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. I like old-fashioned metal toy cards. I buy one for myself on my birthdays. I have them around on shelves and furniture. Began doing that back in 2023. Oh, that sounds like fun. But yeah, gatekeep that hobby, Herald. Don't let the Logan Pauls and the private equity people of the world try and ruin that for you, because you know they will. They'll figure out a way. They really will.
Arbitrary and subjective, and they can give any undamaged manga any number they want. They deliberately set the target at a 9.2 to make you think, wow, there's a whole 8 points above that. I could totally get lucky if I send mine in, but you won't get lucky.
That's a scam.
Someone will eventually, probably someone who knows someone with a 9.3 or 4 to keep the floor low for a couple more years, but only...
Or somebody who has enough money to bribe the graders to say, I'm sending this to you, and you're gonna give me a perfect score on it. And they'll do the whole flex, well, that's not how we do things around here, mate. And he's just like, here's X amount of money. It's like, yeah, you know what? This really is a perfect 10. There you go. Easiest payday they'll ever make. As long as they don't get caught, then it'll be the last payday they ever have.
When they need Paul and Padawer to make another record-setting purchase and rev up the hype cycle again. And while I'm calling shots, let me tell you where I think the current hype campaign is going. It is not a coincidence that
Crash
one
into the
day
ground.
after their kayfabe trash talk on WrestleMania, iShowSpeed was the first guy calling
You don't even know shit about One Piece.
Logan Paul a tourist, and it's not a coincidence that Logan Paul took his promo picture for the One Piece Zashi in front of the WrestleMania stage. All of this touristy tweeting, sarcastically taunting One Piece fans about how much love they've shown him as he shows off things he's bought that are supposed to make us jealous, every one of which has multiple blue check accounts replying with the same AI manufactured meme of Monkey D. Speed decking Logan Charlos, by the way. It's all heel work. He is intentionally using toxicity and tribalism in the anime community to build heat for a grudge match at probably SummerSlam 26, where Speed is gonna kick his ass and take the graded One Piece from him, thus turning a relatively common $1,000-ish Zashi into a prize with a storyline and a symbol to...
So it's all going to be fake and gay. It's all fake and gay. What a shocker. Because as we all know, wrestling is fake. All of this is manufactured. And yeah, that would not surprise me in the least if he just takes it. In a totally staged, totally fake wrestling match. This tracks. I could see this. Cough, IGN cough. The Paul brothers are just a version of rice gum that happened to survive the controversies and succeed through scams. Yeah, that's their whole career, isn't it, really? They started out as just arseholes on the internet, doing rage-bait content, and now they've upgraded to running scams on people. I don't think they have ever really worked an honest day in their life.
Anime fans everywhere of gatekeeping the tourists, which in turn will cement the idea in pop culture that manga in a slab is special and worth more than manga you can read. Which of course he's hoping will in turn make the other two One Piece Zashi that he bought, even the one with the scuffed, chewed up corners, worth more than he ever paid for the one that Speed is gonna take from him.
Then I think the solution to all of this is for enough people to build critical mass and bring into question the credibility of these ratings companies. Or even just, even simpler, plant the seed in the public mind that it's all fake merch. That's even easier. It can be quite hard to lead a campaign these days to damage people's credibility irreparably, which needs to happen to these ratings agencies. But circulating the meme, regardless of whether or not it's true, that Logan Paul and iShowSpeed are just dealing in fake merch, and now that That's an easier sell with the public. That one is easier to spread. And if that can be done, the whole thing can be shorted, as it were, and could potentially bring the whole scam down. Now, mind you, somebody like Logan Paul is just going to move on to the next scam, but that one could sting for a bit. That's one where there's really an opportunity to make it hurt for him. And I hope enough people do it. Just spam the response of it's fake or fake merch or something like that. Something like that is, I think, enough to where a large enough critical mass could bring the whole house of cards down. Hulk Hogan said wrestling is mostly an act now and hasn't not been for decades. Oh, I can believe it. I mean, we always knew it was fake. It was fake from the get-go.
Price, I want to note, that has never been disclosed in any of these tweets or videos where they're flexing the $550K they spent on Dragon Ball, because it probably wasn't that much, and it would make the scam really obvious if they told you what they paid. And what I think makes this branding strategy especially obvious—
Oh, there's another opportunity. If someone could leak the actual amount paid. If someone could leak the receipts, that could also bring down the whole house of cards. There's an opportunity for someone on the inside. And all it takes is one disgruntled employee. That is all it takes.
Is how Jeremy has also pivoted to rage bait. Pathetically transparent Gen AI rage bait of him as the oldest manga fan ever after all of his attempts at positive publicity fell on their faces. Though, just to be clear, I'm not showing you any of these tweets to have you guys go yell at these guys. And I'm not just saying that to cover my ass like a drama tuber. I really mean it. When you quote dunk on Paul and Padawer saying, "You're not a real fan, you don't deserve the One Piece Chapter 1, or the Dragon Ball Chapter 1, or the Big Toblerone," no matter how brutally you ratio their asses, you're giving them exactly what they want. Associating their names with the brand names of these anime and reinforcing the idea that these slabbed up collectibles that they overpaid for are something special that only a real anime fan would deserve.
It's like a Chinese finger trap. It's like the more you talk about them, the more they win. They feed off of the attention. The more effective thing to do is to deny them attention, deny them targets, freeze them out, refuse to name them. If the owners of those companies know what they're doing, they have shorts on those companies. Probably.
Somehow more special and more valuable than any of the vast majority of identical Shonen Jump issues and tankobons out there, which nobody's bothered to submit to Beckett because, again, manga grading is obviously a scam. As long as they can get you talking about anything other than that fact, Paul, Padawer, Beckett, and all of their bros win. But if you focus on the scam part of the story, if you explain why grading manga is bullshit to your friends and fellow fans, or just share this video so I can explain it for you, and if you make people at cons and online who do buy and sell graded shit, especially tankobons, feel as stupid and unwelcome as they are, we might just be able to excise these parasites before they can fully sink their teeth in.
Weaponize cancel culture, weaponize shame campaigns, and get organized enough people doing that sort of thing, get it on video, blast it out on social media. You make it seem not only uncool, but socially unacceptable. That can also be effective. For once, it would be using cancel culture for good.
Forming a united front, you guys can starve Beckett out of your hobby. And if they go...
And before you say it can't be done, he just showed an example. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Community did it, and it worked. So you just have to take what they did and adapt and replicate it for manga. This can work. Takes some effort, but it can work.
Oh, the speculators and scalpers will go with them. Make Logan Paul apologize to Japan again. Hey, thanks so much for watching all of this. I know it was a long one, but the subject needed that level of depth. If you're new here because you're here for Logan Paul hating, that's not my usual content. Usually I recommend cool anime and manga, so click one of those videos to check that out. Thanks.
That was good. That was some good content.